Good morning, everybody. We'll be in Matthew chapter 20 to start. Again, it's a beautiful day the Lord's gave us. And as always, it's an honor and privilege to come into His house, to be in His presence and study His Word and with our brothers and sisters and get a little bit closer to this mighty God that we serve. And again, we'll be in Matthew chapter 20. For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour, and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right I will give you. And they went their way. Again he went out about the 6th and 9th hour, and did likewise. And about the 11th hour he went out, and found others standing idle, and saith unto them, Why stand ye here all the day idle? They say unto him, Because no man hath hired us. He saith unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right, that shall ye receive. So we have a guy here, and he's got this land that needs to be worked, and he's went out several different times during the day to bring laborers in. They got some early in the morning, first thing. He went back in late morning and got some, and maybe around noon and got some, and come back in the afternoon and got some. And then he went out in the evening when it was late and brought some workers in, even until the 11th hour. So he's had all these people coming in at different times to do the work that he had for him to do. So when even was come, the Lord of the vineyard saith unto his steward, Call the laborers and give them their hire, beginning from the last unto the first. And so he's saying that's what we had, the deal was, that's what we said, so what have I done wrong? Take that, thine is, and go thy way, and I will give unto this last even as unto thee. He's saying, I filled up my end of the bargain just like you did. You worked. I told you this is what I was going to pay you. This is what's yours. And what I pay them is, that's the business. It is not law. Some people may come in at that 11th hour, and right before, I have a lot of years to labor and work. But, if you choose the Lord and you get saved, it doesn't matter at what stage of your life that you're in. If you serve Him and do your best when He calls you out, you're washed in that blood, you've repented, and, you've been changed by the Spirit, manifested, made a new man, you're going to get that until He calls me home. That's going to be a great blessing and honor to do so. But, we shouldn't be jealous, and we shouldn't be, hateful or thinking that, we're owed more than somebody else that came in later. There's people that started before us, and, we shouldn't be jealous of them. They shouldn't be jealous of us either. We should all be happy that we're all working on the same team for the Lord, and we're all working for Him and His honor and glory. Just working for the glory, or they're working for that money, and that they're not working for the Lord. And it says, many are going to be called, but few are chosen. We definitely want to be in that chosen group. That the Lord can look at us and say, hey, you've been faithful to me. You've been a good and faithful worker. What you've done has been to my honor and my glory. You've lifted up my Jesus. And you've walked in the spirit of truth and obedience like a child. Humble yourselves down like a small child. And those children, they just do what they're told because they know that's the right thing to do. Because, mommy and daddy told them to do that. Well, that's what we need to do. Well, God, I'm going to do this because that's the right thing to do because you told me to do that. And we have that heart, that we want to please our Father. And we do all the things we do to please Him and to bring Him honor and glory and respect Him, walk in that obedience and faith. To mock and to scourge and to crucify Him, and the third day He shall rise again. So again, Jesus is telling the disciples, He's saying, He's preparing them for what's about to happen. They're not real excited about it. I'm sure that he's not either, because this is going to be a great ordeal he's going to go through. But of course, he's going to be obedient unto death, because he knows that his shed blood is what's going to save all of us that accept it, and that we choose him and follow him. So, but he's trying to prepare them, and he's saying, we're going to go to Jerusalem, and these things are going to happen. And he's saying, they're going to, I'm going to take care of this. I have to go through this because I love you, and I have to save you. So he's preparing them for that. And a lot of people wonder, well, why did he have to suffer so? Well, we had a great debt of sin that we've built up and amassed, and so there had to be a great price that had to be paid to cover all that. And Jesus Christ was plenty enough to pay that, and he did, because he was obedient unto death. He suffered, and he fulfilled God's perfect plan of salvation for us. And that's why we owe him everything that we have, because he gave everything he had. Even his very own life, and shed his blood, and was beat unmercifully, keeping him and desiring a certain thing of him. So this is James and John's mom has come and talked to him. And he said unto her, What wilt thou? She saith unto him, Grant that these my 2 sons may sit, the one on thy right hand, and the other on the left, in thy kingdom. So James and John's mothers come to him and saying, hey, I love my children. They're working for you. They're serving for you. And she's saying is to help me carry that load and to drink from that same cup, that bitter cup that I have to drink from. And he says, and I have to be the baptized he took, is that beating, that scourging, and that blood that he shed, that sacrifice that he has to make. And he's saying, are you willing to follow me in this? And they say unto him, we are able. So they said that they would. They're committing to him, and they're saying, we'll do whatever it takes. We're going to follow you. Whatever it is, we'll do. And he saith unto them, Ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But this is to follow him. He always told them the truth. And so he's preparing them again for that next step, that after he's gone, he ascends back to heaven, and they're out there spreading that gospel that, rough road. And he says, that they will be baptized the same way that he was. That means they were going to be beaten. They were going to be, 10 of the 12 were all killed. And of course, Judas killed himself. So 11 of them did die, before it was, old age set into them. John's the only one that died of old age, but he was abused. They almost killed him several times too. They all suffered. That's going to be my father that sets that up and prepares that table and sets the seats out. And when the 10 heard of it, they were moved with indignation against the 2 brethren. So here we go again. We talked about earlier about the laborers fighting amongst themselves about someone might have got a little more than they did, or might have worked a little less and got paid the same. And so here these 10 think, well, it's like he's saying this to them. Why are they any better than the other 10 of us? So there's that little bit of jealousy, and it doesn't take much for jealousy to set in. If we're not in our true spiritual mindset, we're not praying and seeking him, and we're keeping him first, and say, hey, it doesn't matter if my friend gets blessed a little more today. Maybe my turn will be tomorrow. God's going to deal with that. I don't even need to worry about that. I just need to keep doing what he's asked me to do, walk in that obedience, doing the job he set before me, and then, it'll all work out in the end. God's not going to cheat anybody. He's going to give you your just rewards. What you've done for him and how you've sacrificed, what we can consider sacrifice, which I say again, we should be ashamed to say the word after what Christ did for us. But, when we give up things in this world for him, when we give up our time and our energy and we go to work for him and do the things he's called us to do, he's going to reward us. He's going to pay that. He's going to pay his debts to us. So if we've done something for him, he's going to take care of that. And of course, he paid our debt that we owed him with his own son. So, he's not going to shortchange us anything. That's not the way he is. But, that human flesh, as long as we're in this body, our soul's trapped in this flesh and this clay that we're in, there's going to be that little hint in the flesh of that jealousy, and that's rose up in the disciples here. But Jesus called them unto him and said, Ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. But it shall not be so among you, but whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister. So he's saying in this world, people that have power and they're in charge, they exercise that authority and power, and they have the people under them do all the work and take care of everything. And he's saying, this is not so to be in this kingdom. This is a spiritual thing. The world functions to where people use others to bring them things. He goes, that's not how my kingdom works. This is my Father's kingdom. He says, we're supposed to be, if you're in great power and you have great responsibility, he says, you're supposed to be a minister to those people. You're supposed to take care of their needs. You take care of those that are around you and work for you and around you and with you. And whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant. So he's saying, if you have a title, you have a position, you have a power in my kingdom, in my church, if you're called out, he goes, you're to serve, just like I am. Who amongst us was greater than Christ? And he was the greatest servant that there was. Even unto death he served his people. And, he died for us. But he was washing feet. He was healing people. He went amongst the sick and the poor. And, he fed those people, and he gave them spiritual food, and he blessed them, and he saved us. All those that will receive him, he saved us. He served. He wasn't a master that came in cracking the whip and telling us this is what we had to do. And while he sat on the throne and had it easy, he was out there working. He was getting his feet dirty because he was moving. He's got his hands dirty because he was out there working and touching and healing these people. He was a worker and he was a servant. He gave. And we're to have that heart too. He's trying to tell them, stop thinking worldly. Get the world out of your mind. Get the world out of your heart. And get the Spirit in your mind and your heart. Get this word in your mind and your heart. Get my love in your heart and in your mind, so that you can serve and you can love people. Because we're not supposed to be out here gathering an army to serve and go work for us. We're in that army and we're working and we're trying to build it for him. We're all supposed to be servants. And that's the example that Christ gave us. And that's what he's reminding them again here this morning. He's saying, we need to serve. If you want to be somebody, go serve. And that he goes, if you want to be somebody in this world, go gain some power and authority and fame and money, whatever it is. But that's the reward you're going to get. But if you're going to be in my kingdom, you're going to be in my service, go serve people, and be a servant. Take care of the needs they have. And that's how you're going to build a name with us. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many. So he's saying, we're not here to build ourselves up. We're here to serve. We're here to build up my Father, and we have to lift up Christ and be obedient. We have to be his hands and feet and go out there and work. So that's what he's reminding them again to do. He goes, we're not supposed to be building up wealth and authority and power for us. We're supposed to be building the kingdom, the church, and for the glory of God. Verse 29. And as they departed from Jericho, a great multitude followed him. And behold, 2 blind men sitting by the wayside, when they heard that Jesus passed by, cried out, saying, Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. So Jesus is passing by. There's these 2 blind men, and they hear that he was coming by, so they're crying out. They knew this was their opportunity. This was their chance, that Jesus was walking by. They identify him as Son of David. They're saying, no, he's the Messiah. He's the one that the prophets from the Old Testament prophesied about, that it was going to be a descendant of David. And they're saying, Lord, this is you, thou Son of David. Have mercy upon us. And the multitude rebuked them because they should hold their peace. But they cried the more, saying, Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. So they're going through this crowd, and the people around him are trying to tell them to hush. It's like, this is Jesus. You don't need to talk to him. He's different. He's special, and you don't have the right to talk to him. Be quiet. Let him pass by. You're not worthy to talk to him. It's what the crowd's trying to say to him. And Jesus stood still and called them and said, What will ye that I shall do unto you? Now, isn't that awesome and a thought to think about? Don't know how many times I've read this before, but it just occurred to me, this last little bit studying this, the Spirit's revealed this to me. How awesome is that this world keeps telling us, shut up, go sit down, you're too broken, you're too sinful, you've done too much, you've gone too far, you're not worthy anymore, He can't help you, shut up and go sit down. Just go suffer until you die. But what did Jesus do? He heard them. And He says, What will ye that I shall do unto you? Isn't that awesome that we have Jesus that's like that He doesn't tell us, you know what? You're not worth it. I can't help you. I'm not going to save you. He never says that to us. But He says, yes, come to me. What can I do for you? He is that true servant of the Father. He's that true servant to us to help us because He loves us that much. It doesn't matter how far we've gone and where we went and what we've done. If we can reach Him, we can cry out to Him. That Spirit draws us to Him. It will connect us to Him. And if we will do what He says, we'll be obedient, we'll repent, we can be saved. He can heal us. He can take care of us. It doesn't matter what this world says. The world's full of lies. The world's full of darkness and it's broken. But Christ is there and He's that light and He's the truth and He can save us. He can help us. But we have to cry out to Him. Just like these two men did. They cried out. The world said, shut up. They cried the more louder because they said, no, I'm not going to shut up because I need Jesus and I want to get through to Him. Because if I get through to Him, I've got something. That's what I need and I need to get to Him. And so they cried even louder and then Jesus heard them and He said, all right, what do you need? So they say unto Him, Lord, that our eyes may be opened. So Jesus had compassion on them, and He touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed Him. So what do we learn here? The world's going to tell you, no, it's not going to happen. Give up. Stop. Shut up. Go sit down. You're not worthy. They cried even more. So, when you get starting to have that faith that starts to shrivel up a little bit, you're having that lack of faith, the world's beating you down, and the world's telling you to stop and to give up, don't. Do what these men did. Cry even louder. Keep calling out to Him. Keep seeking Him. And when you seek Him with a true and honest heart, He's going to hear you and He's going to come to you. And then He's going to say, what do you need? Well, then you say, I need you. Open my eyes. That's a powerful statement there. They were blind and they needed their physical eyes opened. It seems to me like they already had their spiritual eyes open because they knew Christ was all that they needed. And they forsook the world and they said, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to cry out to Him because that's my Jesus. He's going to do something for me. And if we can have that kind of faith and we can stick to that and we can keep crying out to Him, keep reaching out for that hem of His garment, to keep trying to grab the bottom of His feet and hang on to Him with all that we have, He's going to stop and He's going to pick us up and He's going to lift us up and He's going to save us and He's going to help us. But we can't quit. We can't stop. Tell the world to shut up. And then, because shut up, world, I want to hear what Jesus has to say. I want to hear what the Spirit has to say to me. I want to see what my God's going to do for me. And we have that kind of faith. It says here, He's going to have compassion on us because He wants us to come to Him. He wants to help us. He wants to save us. He wants to heal us. He wants to do all these things. But they said, open my eyes. That, this morning we can think about that. Yes, open my physical eyes. I need to be able to see. I need to have, physical strength in my body to do things I need to do. But open my spiritual eyes too, Jesus. Open my spiritual eyes. Let me see your truth. Let me see more of you. Let me see more of the Father. I want more of you in me. I want your Spirit to fill me. I want to understand your word more because I want to know you better. Open my spiritual eyes here this morning. That's what we need. Each and every day and pray to Him. Show me your truth. I don't need mine. I know what happens when Daniel's in charge. I always wind up in the ditch, flipped over, and I'm in trouble. But when I follow Him and I see what He wants me to do and I honor Him with my obedience, everything works out right. So show me your truth. Show me where you want me to be and the path you want me to be on, because that's what I need. When we cry out to Him, He's going to open our eyes. He's going to show us what we need because that's how He is. And it says, though, that immediately their eyes received sight and they followed Him. So it didn't just end that He opened their eyes. When they opened their eyes, they followed Him. So that's another thing there too. Once he does this, bless him, honor him, and then follow him. Go, because he's about the work. He's doing the business. We need to be out there working for him too, and taking care of things and turning people to him, that he can save them too, that he can open their eyes, he can open their ears, he can open their mouths, he can heal their bodies, he can save them, he can save their children, their families, whatever it may be. But we have to follow him afterwards. It's not just, oh good, you took care of this, now I'm going to go back to where I was. That's not what happened. And not sit right there where you were either. Those men could have stayed right there where they were. But what'd they do? They called out to him. The world said, shut up. They said, no. They cried even louder. I need him. I'm going to get him. I'm not going to quit till Jesus hears me and he answers me. So they cried out. He stopped. He said, what do you need? They confessed what they needed. He gave it to them. And then what'd they do? They followed him. So there's stuff to do afterwards. It's not just saying a prayer and getting what you need and then going right back where you were or sitting where you were. Now you got to get up and work and you got to follow him. And it's not that you're going to pay him back or you're going to make things even. We could never do that. He's given us too much and he's taken too much of our debt away. We owe him too much. We could never repay him. But all he asks us to do is be obedient and follow him and to try to share what he's done for us with other people, that they could seek him too. So forsake the world, hang on to Jesus, and never let him go. Matthew chapter 21. And when they drew nigh unto Jerusalem, and were come to Bethphage, unto the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying unto them, go into the village over against you, and straightway you shall find an ass tied, and a colt with her. Loose them, and bring them unto me. And if any man say aught unto you, ye shall say, the Lord hath need of them, and straightway he will send them. All this was done, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, tell ye the daughter of Sion, behold, thy king cometh unto thee, meek, and sitting upon an ass and a colt, the foal of an ass. And the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them, and brought the ass and the colt, and put on them their clothes, and they set him thereon. So Christ had the disciples go and get these donkeys, bring it in, that he could ride it in, so that it was fulfilled by the prophets, because all the things that the prophecies of the Old Testament that were about Christ, he fulfilled each and every one of those, and these was one of those things. This was one of those signs that the generations are always asking for. We've talked about that before. Everybody's looking for sign, show me a sign and I'll believe. Show me a sign, I'll believe. We have this word. It's enough of a sign. It tells us what to look for. And when we study this word, we're being obedient and we follow him, we're going to see these signs and recognize what they are. He's not going to put a big flashing neon sign up in the sky, because he doesn't have to work that way. He only wants the people that are truly seeking him to be able to understand and to find. This world's going to be lost in their confusion. And so here it is. It's like, if you want a sign, read this word. If you want a sign, pray. If you want a sign, seek him. And he'll open your eyes, your spiritual eyes, and you'll be able to see what's going on. So he's fulfilling this prophecy that he's going to ride into Jerusalem, on this donkey and this colt here. So, and the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them, and brought the ass and the colt, and put on them their clothes, and they set him thereon. And a very great multitude spread their garments in the way. Others cut down branches from the trees and strawed them in the way. So the people started seeing him coming, and they realized who he was. They got excitement. There was a stir. So they started throwing things down, clothes and branches and straw and stuff in the way, to kind of honor Jesus and to say, hey, this is him, and so they were excited that he was coming. And the multitudes that went before and that followed cried, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord, Hosanna in the highest. So they're praising him, they're shouting his name, and they're honoring him, as he's coming in here. They're proclaiming who he is and saying that, this is Jesus, this is the Messiah, this is him. He's come in the name of the Father. And when he was coming to Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, who is this? And the multitude said, this is is Jesus, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. So the city, this is going to be the powers that be. This is going to be the Gentile people, the Romans. Like, who is this? And of course, the Jewish people are like, this is him. And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves. So he went into the temple and he saw that they polluted the temple with their business. They were doing outside business. They were trying to profit off of the church. They were in there, charging money to change money and to sell doves. And they were doing all these things, and they were dishonoring God. They were trying to make a profit off of God in his house. And Christ was upset about that, and he run all those people out. And he said unto them, It is written, My house shall be called the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And so he was saying, this house is supposed to be here to honor God. We're supposed to come into this house. We're supposed to pray here. We're supposed to seek him here. We're supposed to teach. We're supposed to preach. We're supposed to help people here. We don't come here to make a profit in this world. We're not here to make money. We're here to lay up spiritual profit, to gain souls for this kingdom of God. We're supposed to turn people to him so that they can be saved. They could repent and they can seek him and be saved. And that's what my Father's house is supposed to be. He said, but you made it a den of thieves because you're here. You're taking people's money. You're misinforming people. You're confusing them. You're taking their focus off of God. He said, you can't do that here. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying in the temple and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased. So here you've got the church of the day, the chief priests and the scribes. Those are supposed to be the elders of the church, the people that are supposed to be guiding and leading the church. Christ comes in. He starts healing people. He starts teaching and preaching and setting souls free. And the church gets upset about it. Well, how confusing is that? But see, that's why he came. That's why he was here. The church had been corrupted of itself. The church thought that it was something more than it was of the day. And they thought that they were the ones in charge, that they could be doing all these things. And they'd forgotten about what the true word was, is that we can do nothing outside of Jesus Christ. We can't do nothing without God. But they'd puff themselves up. They got drunk on the power that they had, the money they were making, and the authority that they had. They had all this power and authority, and they see him walk in, and he's actually got power. He's actually got true authority. He's actually got true, God in him. He's got the Spirit of God in him, and that displeased them because he was the real deal. And he was going to mess up the little racket that they had, where they were having all these worldly power and money and all this stuff, and he's actually walking in spiritual power and truth, and it was making them upset. They're like, oh, we're going to have to give up this, and we're going to have to humble ourselves down and admit who he is and serve him, and we're going to lose our power and authority. So they got upset about that. And Jesus said unto him, Hearest thou what these say? And Jesus saith unto them, Yea, have ye never read, Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings thou hast perfected praise? And so he's saying, like children, they praise honestly and purely. We have to do the same thing. We need to make sure that when we're praising him, that it's because we love him and that he's helped us and we're honoring him and that, we're lifting up him. It can't be about us. It can't be, well, look at me and what I'm doing. And then, we're wanting to get praise for what we're doing and what the act we're putting on. It has to be truthful. It has to be honest. It has to be real, that we're lifting up him. And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there. Now in the morning, as he returned into the city, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it, and found nothing thereon but leaves only, and said unto it, Let no fruit grow on thee henceforth forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, how soon is the fig tree withered away? So, there's this tree here that was supposed to have brought forth fruit, and Christ was going to go pick that fruit from it because he needed it. He was hungry. And so it didn't have anything on it. It was just there. It was barren. It hadn't produced any fruit. So it was basically useless. It was just there to take up space and to look at. And so he said, let no fruit grow on thee henceforth forever forward, or henceforth forever. And so it withered away and died. So what does that mean to us spiritually? If we're not producing fruit for the kingdom, we're dead. So we're not going to be any useful for that. And so we need to understand that this saying is that we need to be working. We need to keep moving. Now, as we grow and we get older, maybe we can't do the same things we used to be able to do. But if we keep seeking Him, He's going to give us work to do. We're going to be able to produce fruit up into old age. We can continue to pray. We can continue to be an example and live an example of a godly life and be like Christ in front of everybody. Not everybody's got the same gifts or talents or abilities. Not everybody has the same calling, but we all have gifts and talents and abilities. We all have a calling on our life. We all have work to do for the kingdom. And if we stop doing that work, we're not going to be producing fruit anymore. And like in this example here, if you're not producing that fruit, you're not working, you're not following in obedience, you're not having faith and working for Him and giving Him glory. It's like, then you're useless and you're going to be cut away and you're going to be spiritually dead. Christ is warning us here with this message this morning, that He give us here this parable about the tree again. You've got to keep working. You can't give up. You can't stop. You have to finish that race. We cannot stop. Now, again, things are going to change as we get older and things like that, maybe, whatever it is, but there's always something we can keep doing. And if we keep tied into the Spirit, we keep tied into the Word, we keep tied in with prayer, and we keep tied in with obedience and discipline, and we honor Him, and we have that faith and hold on to it, we can still produce fruit. But we have to be faithful and we have to keep moving. Jesus answered and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, and when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is the fig tree withered away? Jesus answered and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, if you have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if ye shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. So again, He's telling them, He's with His disciples here. They've seen Him do all these things. They've had private teachings with Him. He's explained the parables to them. He's explained all these things to them. He's preparing them to hand them, the ability to carry on and do the work after He's ascended back to heaven. And so they've had that special one-on-one time with Him. They've been there with Him, and they still have a little bit of doubt. They still have a little bit of non-understanding. And He continues to tell them, have faith and don't doubt. Because when the Spirit fills you, and you have all these abilities to do all these things, but they have to be used correctly. You can't just start saying, well, I want $1 billion. That's not what it is. You ask amiss with that, because that's not a need. That may be a want. But the things that you need, when you ask for, but then He says again too, whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing. So we have to have that faith. Faith activates everything. When we know that we know God is able and that He will, then He can move, because that's what faith is. Even when the world tells you to shut up and sit down, just like those two blind men earlier in the lesson this morning, tell the world to shut up because I need to hear Jesus. You're trying to drown out the voice of Jesus. Shut up, I'm not listening to you. I'm listening to Him. So we have to have that faith and believe that He's going to move, that He's going to deliver, that He's going to take care of all these things. And whatever it is that we need is going to get taken care of, and then some. Because I found in my life with Him, He always gives me a little more than what I thought. And that's just how much He loves us. That's how amazing that He is. So, you have to believe that you're going to get this. And again, that's not asking for this, that, and everything. That's asking for more of Him, more understanding of Him, more of what His will is in our lives. We should pray, God, give me what I need that's going to keep me closer to you, that's going to keep me needing more of you, that's going to draw me ever closer to you. Let your will be done in my life. Daniel's done. I'm over. That's the dead man you've read. You've changed me. I've been washed in that blood. The Spirit's regenerated me. I'm a new creature in you. I want to be made new in you. I want to follow you, and I want to work in your Spirit and your truth. Show me your will. Let your will be done in my life. And so when we do that, we walk in that faith, and everything's going to turn out all right. But we'll stop there this morning. We'll pick back up next week, Lord willing. But again, seek Him with all that you have, all that you are, with your true heart. Have faith, believing that He's going to deliver and He's going to take care of and do all the things that He says, and be obedient to Him. And knowing that obedience is going to get you that reward in heaven that we all should be seeking. And that should be the reward that we want. I just want to be in heaven with Him forever. So again, just keep that faith and walk in obedience.